Hey Christopher, okay, so here is your past life spread. So what we're going to do again is look at where we're going and what you did with the majority of your time there, an important day with relationships and feelings involved, another important day with relationships and feelings, the death, and lesson learned. And we would get hints of time throughout, but we're going to put this card away because of where we're going and where we're going here. This is the Atlantis and Lemuria card. So a lot of times this does mean Atlantis and Lemuria. We're getting more and more souls coming back to bring that energy through. But this is also going to be linked to very much, it feels like Hawaii. Like it feels like Polynesian, I should say. Because the Polynesian, there's like a few different places around the world where it's Polynesian, right? Like New Zealand kind of thing. So this does feel very Polynesian, I should say, but what came to mind was Hawaii. And we're looking at a male aspect of you and a large masculine kind of male aspect that is Polynesian as they look, kind of like, honestly, if you've seen Moana, the god, I forgot his name, but that like buff Polynesian guy. That's what's coming to mind. So that's what we're going with as far as the aesthetic of this aspect of you, okay? So here's the thing. Why this is coming up is because even though it does feel like there is touching base with, I want to say here it's Lemuria, really they want to bring us forward to now almost like, hey, yeah, I mean, you had an experience here, but this is linking in more to this current aspect we're looking at, more so the Hawaiian one, in regards to the feminine energies coming through. So Lemuria kind of represents a more feminine passive energy, where Atlantis is more aggressive, I'd say aggressive, but forward, whatever it is, and masculine. So what they're doing, what it feels like, is they're linking this energy, because it's kind of like an ancient, mystical, feminine, divine feminine energy, linking it to the Polynesian life, which I've never had this before, so just bear with me. Linking it to the Polynesian life that this is, and it's touching on the masculine identity of the aspect of this Polynesian guy of you, or your aspect of this guy, and also because there are feminine tendencies or qualities or likes that this aspect, is all about, but there's this whole like hidden identity issue happening because where he is, that's not, I guess, societally acceptable. So at this time, so it feels like if we're looking at, we'll just say Hawaii. It looks like we're looking back. It's not like, it doesn't feel like ancient times, but it does feel significantly back, where we're looking at maybe where other, what's it called, like outsiders are like just touching base. So if you go Google when non-Polynesian, non-Hawaiians started to touch base in Hawaii, maybe to trade or explore or whatever, go look and see when that time period was, because that's what it feels like this would be. So we're looking at someone during that time, though, who, today, let's say they identified with female, I'm talking about like activities, aesthetics, like liking female, like, what's it called? Like sewing, or typical female dance, even the female dancing versus the male dances in this culture. So it's like just this aspect of this real like guy's guy who is mentally and more mentally and emotionally, I guess, skewed towards feminine things and having to hide that. Sorry that took so long to explain. Okay, that's how they're just feeding it to me here. So we're looking at that. So obviously, I'm just giving you impressions, images coming through for you to connect with. I'm going to try to help how I can. So we're dealing with identity crisis, almost identity issues, judging yourself for liking certain things or even not liking certain things that you should or shouldn't like. And I say should or shouldn't based on what maybe your peers or your siblings or your friend or whoever's around you, what's normal or what they think is right in that respect. And if this is the case, this would just, of course, be a message to be true to yourself and true to your heart and true to your desires in that way. Like, think of it this way: you wouldn't like what you like if you weren't made to like what you like. You know what I mean? Like, so if you're again, like men with identifying with female things, like it could be like if you like to arrange flower bouquets. I mean, I know that's kind of weird and random or whatever, but like if you like to do that, and that's typically seen as like a female thing to arrange flowers in the home or whatever, you know what I mean? I don't know. I know a lot of guys that do it too, but you know what I mean? Like typical female activities, or even, I want to keep saying like not just activities, but like aesthetics, like almost like, oh, well, I would prefer this comforter on the bed that has like roses on it or something. Like, I don't know, that kind of thing. It's this message of not feeling like you have to explain yourself to yourself, definitely not to anyone else, but more so to yourself, like this self-judgment thing, like what are you doing where you're talking bad to yourself, like where are you, it's almost also like where are you denying the thing, like what in you are you denying exploring that almost, I want to say, has always been there in the undercurrents of your consciousness that you don't really touch on at all, or it comes up every now and then, but it would be time to approach it and look at it and utilize it because there's a reason behind it. Does that make sense? I hope this makes sense. Feel free to afterwards, feel free to let me know and ask any questions. But that's what I feel like is coming through, is that we're looking at themes of identity, but this can also mean truly just the theme of identity of like right now you can be in, because of what's going on with everything, we see so many people shifting the realities and shifting really their identities. Like, who am I now? Now that work has stopped or lessened or it's different, I'm in a different schedule kind of thing. Like, people are shifting, so you just might be in an identity crisis where you're like, okay, if I'm going to make a move, it's gonna be now. Like, while the world is quiet, it's time to like make my move, if that makes sense. Like something you've always wanted to do, something you've wanted to try, an idea ruminating in your head. Or I want to say, when I was shuffling, what was coming through is that either you have the idea or someone is approaching you to partner with you for your qualities or your your abilities that you might you may have something like specific that you're really good at, and it would be very useful. And so someone might come to you and be like, hey, let's partner up. This would be a really great opportunity for you to just consider and see, feel it out, see if it resonates with you, even if it's not something you normally would do. Again, with this identity thing, right now it's like the ideal time to manifest and co-create with the universe who you are, who you want to be moving forward, going forward. Like, also what comes through with that is also who you don't want to be and what you want to leave behind, with no excuses. You don't have to justify leaving an aspect of you behind, whether it's like holding a grudge to someone. That can go away with just a thought. You can immediately just forgive. It's like, what have you been holding on to that you want to let go of? It can also be something that you're known for, right? Like, what they're bringing up is like, for me, like I really, like, I went through a period where I loved sloths, like, and I still love them, but there was, like a phase where I was like, oh my God, those are like the best things ever, right? And it's like, I became known for that with my friends. And so that's not who I am anymore. I moved on to another animal, but a lot of my friends are like, oh, you're sloth girl still. And I'm like, man, no, I'm not, and you move away from it. But a lot of people hold on to certain things that they have identified with before, almost like to keep the status quo with their family or their friends or their image or whatever it is. And it's like, this is the time when you can just drop it. Like, if you've always been known as like, oh man, you're a lifetime football person, like, and you're just like, like, I'm done with that now. Leave it behind, like, and it's really funny because you might actually lose friends who like football and who really were only your friends because of that. And I'm just using that as an excuse. But that's okay, because when people exit your life, that it's because that time is done with them. Like, not all relationships are meant to last the long haul. Like, it's really about quality over longevity here. So what you do is when those people walk out, you let them go because you're no longer kind of vibing with them. And that creates space to allow the people that vibe with you, with the newer aspect of you, to come and walk on in and take up room there in a good way. So just know that it almost feels like that is very likely to happen. But it's the whole thing is about being true to yourself, but it's the self that you might not have had time or wanted to look at, because it's the deeper stuff that you've, it just feels like you know what I'm talking about, and it's kind of just lying in the underbelly of your consciousness, just like waiting. It's like, this is the time. It could be like, oh, I always wanted to get a certification or take classes in ABC. You know what I mean? But you didn't, because it's just like, that's pretty far-fetched and random. What's the point? And that doesn't do anything for my current career and blah, 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 blah. All these excuses. It's like, hey, why don't you just listen to what excites you and what's interesting to you and go do it and learn about it at least, and, just give yourself time with it to sit with it and see how it feels, making it part of your routine now, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind. Okay, well, that was a long card. Let's go to this. So this card is the Take Care of Me card. Take Care of Me card. Okay, so let's see what's going on here. So, sorry, they were like feeding me messages, so now I'm getting back to the Polynesian guy here. Okay, so what's going on with the Take Care? Okay, so there's a great sense of duty and obligation to the community, but that also means the home and the family. There is a lack of freedom to do what it is you might want to do. So we're talking about this whole thing about exploring yourself, and they're showing me this aspect of you here that really was very tied down to the family, but because of the duty to the community, it's how everybody acts. So there's nowhere to go. It's like if you're on Hawaii, you're on an island. Let's say it's part of a tribe, you're part of the tribe, or community or whatever it is. There's nowhere to go. Great dishonor, right? Like great dishonor. So it's almost like you are taking care of elderly parents. It feels like there's like a full house. So the Take Care of Me card is actually not pertaining to you. It's pertaining to what you are doing for other people. Okay, so what this might be is a connection for you might be what's it called? Like the feeling of being tied to a duty or a responsibility kind of thing, where once it may have been traditional and proper to continue with, and today you have a choice, and it's seen as kind of like, because we are stepping into this whole like sovereign shift, like this shift into people being sovereign and self-loving and giving themselves the life that they came here to live versus living for others. Now that's acceptable. Now that's encouraged. Here it was not. That's what's coming through for a message for you, is to make sure that you don't get caught up in almost like, I want to say, the older generation's ideals and values when it comes to giving up your sense of freedom in life for your elderly. And it's kind of a weird thing, because it feels selfish, and it might even look selfish or sound selfish, like, oh, I love my parents, of course I'm going to take care of them. But it's like, if it is compromising your life quality, your parents, first of all, should not want that for you. So if your parents loved you back, they would want you to feel free and take life by the balls, so to speak, and do what you want. And this is just an example. So it's the kind of thing where now there are options where you can still, let's say it is taking care of your parents, like this guy here, like you can hire people to help, or you can get the community involved, or you can make it where technology, this and that, there are things that are now available to help you in situations, whereas in this kind of situation here, there was no option. There were no other options. That's what it is. So the message coming through really is about you being more open and aware to the types of options that are presenting themselves to you, because it might be the kind of thing where you're not seeing them as opportunities because of your belief systems that are kind of blinding you to what would otherwise be opportunities, because the belief systems, again, might revolve around traditional ideas and concepts. And this is for you to look into your belief systems when it comes to, let's say, obligatory duties to the home, to the parents, to the siblings, like helping siblings out financially. Like that was very common. That's been very common in the past. But now it's like, okay, if I help you out, think about this way is what's coming through. If I help you out, I'm enabling you and holding you back from learning that lesson of working hard and taking responsibility and that kind of thing. Of course, you don't want anyone on the streets, but if they're going to put themselves in the situation that puts them on the street because they expect someone to just step in and take care of them, that's not your responsibility unless you make it your responsibility. But what I'm saying is that the belief system that would hold you or tie you to someone or taking care of someone or holding you down in some way, look at those types of really tough belief systems and see where those are coming from. Do you truly believe that is right for you? Is that going to give you the most harmonious, joyful, interesting life, of what you want to make out of life? And if those belief systems stem from, let's say, growing up in a traditional household or being around traditional people, it's very normal. This is very common. You can adjust your belief systems. And that's what I feel like as we're looking at here is like a message for you just to be aware of your belief systems because they might be blinding you to certain options or opportunities that may be presenting themselves to you. What's coming up in my head is like people who don't think very highly of themselves. So let's say that there's a potential mate and the potential mate is giving them signals and they just are completely blinded or they're blinded by that, I want to say obtuse or whatever, to those signals because already they have like defined themselves as not good enough because of certain societal checklists and standards that they've been basically taught, hey, you're at this level, she or he is at that level, so there's no point even looking. Like that kind of thing where it's like, no. Like, open your eyes. There are options and opportunities. You just need to, you're not going to see them until you just go through your belief systems and tweak what you are deserving of or what you're capable of or what's possible for you, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind. And let's see what else is it. Take care of me card. Okay. Yeah, so this is also speaking to the caretaker role. That's what it is also the caretaker role. So it's just a message of you to make sure that your first caretaking is you, that you prioritize you for being a caretaker too. I'm not speaking well today, I'm sorry, but that's what it is. It's just making sure that if there is caretaking in your life, make sure that you are prioritizing yourself, and you can prioritize yourself in a way that is still loving towards other people. You can lovingly tell people no. You can lovingly create boundaries. That's what's more than anything is coming up as boundaries. Healthy boundaries for yourself and boundaries, to keep people out that you might already know are influential to how you live your life. Just FYI. Okay, so let's go to the first important day here. Okie dokie. So, first day. This is the graduation card. And graduation does not always mean school. It can mean graduation of emotions, mentality, physicality, spiritual, all kinds of graduation. It could just mean like you move to a better place or whatever, The relationship card here is child. So, we're going to see what child we are talking about. And here is the card betrayed. Betrayed. What's going on here? Okay, so what's really interesting is in all of this, it feels like you have at this point gotten married and had a child is what it is. So it feels like this child is your child. And it feels like this is a, hold on. So, okay. So what they're doing is they're showing me like the pregnancy, the excitement of the pregnancy itself, and then seeing the child. And then the child growing, and it becomes obvious that this is not your biological child, okay? So we're looking at the betrayal of the spouse, betrayal of the wife figure with, it feels like a friend, but it has to do again, hold on. It has to do with her not understanding the feminine tendencies I spoke about earlier. So it's the feeling of you, again, judging yourself. It's like you're not even mad at her. You're mad at you for liking what you like. You're mad at you for being yourself. and it's like you hate that part of you, and you feel like that part of you, because of who you are, it's like, well, of course she went off with like a manly man and is seeing someone else or whatever, because I'm not able to give her that aspect, because, you know, like that kind of thing. So there's a lot of self-hate, and there's a lot of taking responsibility and blame overboard, taking her part of the responsibility and blame onto yourself. And I'm trying to see, because then the child's coming up. What's going on with that? It's actually really interesting, because the feelings and energy I'm getting of you towards the child is actually quite maternal. In fact, it's almost like the female in this, your wife, has more masculine energy than you, and does the disciplining of the child more than you, and you're more maternal towards the child, even when you find out, like, you've been raising this child, it's your child, even though you know the child is, you eventually find out it's someone else's, but that doesn't matter to you because you've already raised the child, so the love is there. So what's really interesting though is like all this self-hate, and yet this heart is like this big, goopy, overflowing, loving heart, especially for things that are innocent, and there's a lot of forgiveness. There's a lot of like, this aspect is capable of so much forgiveness, and I feel like this overwhelming, goopy, loving forgiveness thing is what you want to take from this. It's like the message, because like in these past lives you can always dip into the energy and use the energy in your current life, and that's what I want to say is coming through, is taking all that goopy love and forgiveness and applying it first and foremost to yourself and your circumstance, whatever that might mean to you. If you find that you are being hard on yourself, or you're dropping into a state of fear and then you're frustrated that you're in a state of fear, or, you know, that kind of thing, there's just so much goopy love. Like, I hate to say it like that, but it's like almost like it's like over, like a over, what do you call it? Like when you pour syrup into a cup and it's just overflowing. It's not even like water, it's like syrup. And that's why I'm saying goopy love, because it's like thick. It's like thick love and forgiveness. And it's like you're capable of that so much that if in your current life, if you find that you have issues with that, like if you're able, what do I want to say? If you're able to forgive other people, you need to make sure that you are forgiving yourself for whatever it may be. And this might be things that have shaped you and formed you over your life, like from childhood, and you're still... If you find that there are memories that come up from your childhood that you, or your youth, or at any point, but really, you know, just your youth or whatever, where you wince. Have you ever had those? Like the memory comes up and you wince, you're like, oh God, I wish I didn't say that. Or, oh, you know, like that kind of thing. It's almost like that would be a message that if something's coming to mind, or if that happens, this would be a message for you to like pour love and forgiveness into those aspects of yourself, into the younger aspects of yourself, forgiving them for anything. I mean, this is process. This is work. This is that inner work you talk. This is shadow work, really. I mean, look that up. I'm sure maybe you've heard of it, but look it up. You want to do this inner work. You want to forgive and love every aspect of yourself, starting from your earliest memories, working up to today. And then you want to keep it up. And you're going to see your whole reality change once you learn to love yourself in that way, that you forgive yourself, because we're only human kind of thing. And our spirits are perfect and whole, and you need to remember that, and that's the place you need to come from when you forgive the human aspects of yourself, remembering that you're human. Does that make sense? So then there's also this theme, this concept of feeling like, you know, graduation is like, oh, you know, it's like amazing and great and moving forward, and, you know, it's this celebratory thing. And then there's something where there's like the kink is thrown in, right? The wrench is thrown in, where it's like, oh, by the way, that's not your kid. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's all about perspective and attitude. You can either focus on that wrench thrown in, or you can see that, oh, just like this guy, this is my family, this is my life, it's a beautiful family. Yeah, I mean, you know, this is happening over here, this aspect is happening, but at the end of the day, you know, we are a unit, and at the end of the day, everyone feels fulfilled. It's the weirdest thing because like it's not even it's weird because it's like it doesn't feel like jealousy. It just feels more like, hey, if you do this, can you be quiet about it? Like it's like that kind of thing. So it's not ruining your life. It's just a wrench thrown in. And it's all about perspective and attitude because this kind of thing can make or break a family. It can break a whole family apart when really it doesn't have to if it's framed in a way where it's I know it sounds where it's like, oh, well, then you're forcing a perspective, but that's not what it is. You're not forcing yourself to fool yourself into thinking something. It's truly about reframing your perspective and your belief systems again, as to what is worthy of breaking up a family, what is worthy of allowing something to dismantle your life or your self-worth or your identity or whatever. You know what I mean? Like this is a family unit and she, had relations with someone else, got pregnant, had a kid, but she's with you. It's still a family unit and there is respect and love there. And she's gotten what she wants, you with the child and her coming, home every day treating you with respect as well. You get what you want. Like everyone's happy. It's just there's a wrench in there a little bit. Like so it's about again the perspective and how much weight you put on a certain aspect of, let's say, your relationship or your expectations of something. Really, it's also talking about expectations of yourself, of how you define a relationship, how you define happiness, how you define success. You get to rework all these definitions, especially now it feels this is coming up because of the big shift happening right now with this whole quarantine thing. The world's changing. It's like, why not redefine your life, redefine what is happiness and success to you. No one needs to tell you what that is. No one gets to choose that for you. We all kind of like have like a template put into us when we grow up, right? When we go through school, and then like maybe our parents, like their lifestyle kind of indicates what our lifestyle should be at the very least, or it's a template. It's just a template and we don't create it. So we get to create, what we want, again, how to define our lives. We have that ability, and that is manifestation. That is creating your own reality. Once you like understand just how powerful you are, and it's all in your thoughts. So keep that in mind, and keep making connections here when you can. This can also speak to people that you consider family who are not blood relatives, that you create your own family. Like he very well could have like been like, oh, you whore, go away from me, cast off child, like all these horrible things, excuse my language, but he didn't, because this is his kid. It's like, again, just, it's about expectations. So how do you, what are you expecting from a certain situation, and how are you going to react? Again, the attitude, reactions to everything, that's up to you. Things come up again in your life, like your themes, they'll come up again and again. And your reaction dictates whether or not that thing is going to come up again. So if something shitty is coming up in your life over and over again, it's probably because your reactions are not different enough. You're not making the changes. And it's, again, you don't have to fake it. You just have to go into your belief systems and figure out, why am I reacting to this? Why is it triggering me? And then go from there. Because you can identify the trigger, and then a lot of times you find there's no reason for you to be triggered that way when it comes down to it. It's really weird. But a lot of this stuff stems from childhood. So keep that in mind. As well as the feelings of betrayal, that might be an issue or a trigger for you, quite frankly. When we're talking about triggers, and I'm being drawn to this card, betrayal, I want you to try to, if it's a trigger, if this resonates with you at all, I want you to redefine what betrayal is to you in your life. Like maybe there's a specific instance, or maybe you've lost friends or whatever because you feel like they betrayed you. But then you have to like look at the big picture and be like, okay, they betrayed me because they did this action which caused me to feel betrayed. Then you have to look at like, why do I feel betrayed? Why did their action feel like it betrayed me? And like just break it down. You know what I mean? Because this is also about putting yourself in other people's shoes. There you go. Because everyone does things for their own reason. And usually if they're doing shitty things to people, it's because they're insecure and they're projecting and they need to feel like they're top dog and this and that. Like, just step back. And this is where non-attachment comes in. It's the art of observing the thoughts or the circumstances without attaching emotion to it. So you can really break it down. and see what's really going on from multiple perspectives. And so when you're not emotionally involved in that or attached, that's when you can make the shifts in you and you can decide where you go. The ball's in your court. That's where the power is. It's empowering. So keep that in mind, and we're going to go to the next important day. So this is the move, 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 let's go card. A lot of times it's when people are like fleeing something, or I don't know, we'll see what's going on. This is the spouse card, and this is neutral. Neutral feeling. So I'm just trying to feel this out and see what's coming through. So what I feel like is going on here is that there is like a natural disaster happening, and it's almost like a tsunami kind of deal is what it feels like, but it's almost like it doesn't happen every year. It might be the kind of thing that comes around only like every 10 years kind of thing, and it's a big deal, and it's like everyone's evacuating, and it's almost like your wife doesn't want to go, or you don't want to, one of you doesn't want to go, one of you does, and there's this stall happening, and this like kind of like, what do you want to do, what do you want to do? And then I'm trying to see which one it is, because it's like one of you is like, oh, it's not going to be that bad, and the other one is like, we're going to go because most of the other people are going, why not just be safe and do it? So I feel like it's almost like your wife is digging in her heels with the kid, and you're like, no, I'm going and I'm taking the kid. And I feel like that's what happens, is like you take the kid and you go, and she stays, and I feel like it's almost like she's staying because there are like some other people staying, and there's something about like a feeling of defiance in her. And I feel like that's also, again, like the masculine energy in a sense, like versus yours, which is like, no, safety first. Like it's again, like more maternal, and she's more like, oh, we'll be fine. Kind of like, yeah, just kind of like, what's the word? Like flippant about it. And so you part ways, and the feeling is neutral, because it feels like at this point you're like, I love her because she's the mother of this child who I adore. However, that's where it stops, and good luck. Basically, it's like that. It's like, I don't own you. If you want to make the choice to stay here and not come with us, who is your family, then okay, good luck. But we're going to be safe, especially for the kid. I'm going for the safety, at least, of the child. Like, that kind of thing. And so there's a neutral parting, so to speak, where it's like recognized in that moment and not until that moment that that you guys are just friends. Like it's very, just at this point feels very platonic, and it's like, okay, well, I'll see you if I see you. It's that interesting kind of feeling, and I'm trying to see here what they want to say about that. Okay, here we go. So this is a concept that has come up lately, and it's the idea of going with the flow and being in the flow. So there's a knowing of it's a knowingness of like kind of reading the feelings and signs and guidance that you're getting in whatever way you get it, and kind of going with that. And then going with the flow is like just moving along with the herd for no reason. And it's an interesting concept that has been brought up before, and it feels like it's coming up again for you to make connections where you can with that, in the sense where if you find that you're a guy that's kind of like a go with the flow, and it's like for whether it's to be a people pleaser or whether it's so you don't have to work that hard at like thinking of other options or whatever it is, that's something to think about, because that's not putting you on the path where when you're in the flow and you're paying attention to the signs and you're aware, you're self-aware and you're aware of what's around you, that's you being in the flow, and that's putting you on the path. So it's almost like make sure that you are discerning between the two, and that you're not using the excuse of going with the flow as, oh, I'm on my path and I'm just going with the flow. Like, you don't want to do that. You want to be proactively in the flow, which is being open to signs and guidance. And that might mean you taking action. That might mean you doing something that is not going with the flow, but it's being in the flow. Does that make sense? I want you to try to think about that, if that makes sense. So this also speaks to, like saying goodbye to people, like realizing the relationships in your life. And that's, I'm talking about like friendships or romantic, whatever it may be. don't stall in saying goodbye. Don't stall. It's almost like if he stayed and he stalled, it's like he might not have made it because it feels like it's a really bad storm kind of thing and people don't make it, like that kind of thing. So it's like if he stalled in his decision, he doesn't know if he or, if that kid would have made it. He made it if he or the kid would have made it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's like don't stall in when you have to let go of toxic people. We talked about boundaries earlier. That's what I'm talking about. Don't stall in creating healthy boundaries for yourself, especially when it does come to people. I mean, this can be with family and it's really hard. And it can even be like, especially this is a weird time where if you are quarantining alone or you feel alone while you're quarantining, if you're quarantining all whatever, it's easy to hold on to things because it seems very isolating. But that is not an excuse to hold on to someone or something if it's done. Do you know what I mean? Hopefully that makes sense. And also, what else is coming up is letting go of people who are attached to people who you like as well. So like an example would be like if you break up with someone who has a kid who you've grown really fond of, and this happens all the time, there's, feelings of like, oh my God, well, I mean, I've been like a father to this kid, let's say, for, 3 years or 2 years, whatever it is, 6 months, however long. And, like, what do I do about that? And it's like, well, you need to stop stalling. That's not your kid. Like, it's a hard thing to do, but like, you have to be honest with yourself. It's like, if, let's say, the kid's parent and you, if it's just not right, then it also means that being the father figure of that kid is also not right. It's just not right. It doesn't mean you'll never see him again or you it's not never keep in touch, but it's like be smart. Don't let there be kind of like excuses that seem very legit. Don't let that be an excuse for you to hold on to a relationship, let's say, that is just done. I hope that that's just an example too. This is just talking about, people, toxic people, putting up healthy boundaries. So make connections where you can with that. And I feel like the neutral card is coming through as kind of a guidance for you, a little GPS system. Like if you are feeling neutralized towards someone and they're not feeding your soul or nurturing your soul, that should be a red flag to you. That should tell you this person is not, I have nothing else to learn from this person except for putting up a boundary or releasing them into, releasing them and releasing me, if that makes sense. A lot of people hold on to friendships that have been there since childhood that it's pointless. Like you don't feed each other or feed each other's souls. It's like a lot of times it's like you grow apart in ways where it's like their humor stays juvenile and you're growing up, like that kind of thing. And it's like you can appreciate them, but you kind of just feel about them, like they just don't feed your soul. So consider that as well as just like a little bit of a guidance navigation system for where you want to start looking at putting boundaries up, because really you want people in your life who are proactive in your life. Like your friend, like if you have good friends, your good friends should be encouraging, responsive, vibe with you, have the same, they get your language or humor, that kind of thing. So it's almost like I feel like they want me to say like stop labeling people by old terms potentially, like if you're saying my best friend because he was your best friend in college, but now it's like I don't know if you would call him a best friend, just like based on how a best friend really is. You want to relate. This is where you redefine people and redefine labels and go through like you got to go through your what's a little codex thing and relabel everything. What is a best friend to you? What is a great partner? What is the love of your life? You know what I mean? Like, what does that mean to you? And do these people who fill the slots now, are they matching that definition? I know it sounds kind of cold, but it's not. This is how you enrich your life and create, again, the reality that is the most enriching and joyful experience for you to experience. So anyway, keep making connections where you can with that. And we're going to go to the death card. So here we have the murder card, and it feels like what happened, because with the murder card, it's like sometimes it's just like straight up murder, like gunshot, whatever. But really, it could be a few things, but what's important is the intention. So there is the intention of it, and it feels like we're looking at someone who kind of just turned to alcohol. Especially it feels like after the kid grew up and left the home, so to speak. It feels like later in life alcoholism, because he was just like, once the kid was raised, it was like, I mean, the love is there, but there was something. It had, honestly, it feels like it had to do with the feminine energy and the feminine aspect of him. Kind of looking back and seeing how he feels like it held him up, and how he felt held up being a caretaker, and really just like being confused with the maternal aspects within him, not being able to talk to anybody about it or understand why he would feel maternal versus paternal. It's not that he was, it's like down here I was like, oh, there's a kid and he's the maternal one and the wife is the paternal one. He didn't deny it. Like, he knew that about himself, but he didn't understand why. And it's these lingering questions that he couldn't understand, but also, again, didn't have anyone to talk to. Because, again, this ties into the making sure that you're surrounding yourself with the right people kind of thing that speak your language and will encourage you and to be open and feel, be able, where you can be vulnerable and be okay with being vulnerable around the right people, But it feels very isolating. So I feel like the isolating factor of unknowingness and confusion and not having anyone to talk to led to alcoholism, which is a numbing effect, and it's an escape. So this, if anything, to connect with you would be just a message to make sure you're not doing anything to escape reality, and to make sure you are it's like face reality first, or enough to, if you do escapist things, like what's coming to mind is like video games or like drugs or whatever, but like not hard drugs, even just like just a lot of, let's say, smoking weed or something, just for the escape aspect, not for purely medicinal, if that makes sense. And this is like seriously no judgment at all, but that's what's coming up as far as like those kind of escapist things. Use them instead as rewards for facing your reality first, and then for doing the inner work, then go play a video game. You know what I mean? Like, use your escape things instead as incentives for after you do the work on yourself, if that makes sense. Does it make sense? I hope that makes sense. So, and if not, that's great. Just, connect with that however you can. It can also be the alcoholism as well. Either one, you like it or you hate it. You can be someone that's like, I'm not touching the stuff, or you can be like, oh yeah, I love it so much, and it's probably a little too much, that kind of thing. And if that's the case, then it's just about moderation. It's not like don't drink. It's just like moderation. And if it's not the case, great. Just again, whatever resonates with you, awesome. So here we have the lesson, and this lesson is letting go. And I feel like more than anything, we're talking about letting go of preconceived judgments of yourself, of, again, letting go of old belief systems, letting go of, expectations, letting go of what should be, letting go of definitions that you've held on to. You're going to find there are definitions that you even up till this moment you thought were like made sense, and then you kind of look into it and you're like, wait, no, this does not vibe with me. It's really interesting. But this is more about letting go of emotional, not just baggage, but it's like emotional and mental baggage, but also not lessons, but like teachings, like brainwashings, like we're talking about deprogramming. That's what it is. This letting go card is about making sure that you're putting the work in to deprogram yourself as fully as you can from preconceived definitions fed to you through society, growing up kind of thing, making sure that you are not living your life as defined by the definitions that your peers or authority figures have provided for you. More than anything, that's what this means. But keep making connections with letting go, because again, we were talking about toxic people and relationships and letting go of that. So there's letting go, and that's important now. Again, with the shift right now, people are finding it much easier now. It's interesting because people are finding that there's a lot more stuff is coming up now to deal with emotionally, mentally, spiritually, a lot more than usual. But so too is it becoming more easy to do the work. So it's like, just take it on and see what you can take on and see what you can shift around while you can during this time. Take advantage of it. This is actually an opportunity to do that. So anyway, I hope that I hope that was interesting. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make connections, and thanks for letting me read you. I hope you're doing well.